Monica Hayes sat on her worn-out couch, her fingers methodically braiding her eldest daughter Jasmine's hair. The room was filled with the soft hum of the television, background noise to the warmth of a typical evening in their small but cozy home in Atlanta. Her three other children played with mismatched toys on the carpet, their laughter a melody that brought Monica a fleeting sense of peace amidst the chaos of her life. But peace was a luxury Monica rarely experienced. As an African-American single mother of four, she had grown accustomed to life's relentless challenges. Juggling two jobs to make ends meet and navigating a world that often dismissed her struggles based on the color of her skin had taught her resilience. She wore her strength like armor. But tonight, the exhaustion in her bones felt heavier than usual. Just as she leaned back to steal a moment of rest, a sharp, searing pain shot through her abdomen. Monica gasped, her hand instinctively clutching her swollen belly. The children froze, their eyes wide with fear as their mother doubled over in agony. "Mommy, are you okay?" Jasmine's voice trembled. "I'm fine, baby," Monica managed to say through gritted teeth, though the pain was far from fine. Sweat beaded on her forehead as the contractions came in waves, each one stronger than the last. She was only 27 weeks along, this couldn't be happening. Panic gripped her as she realized something was terribly wrong. "Jasmine, call Auntie Lynn," Monica instructed, trying to keep her voice steady. Her sister Lynn was her rock, the one person she could count on in moments like this. Jasmine fumbled with the phone, her small hands shaking as she dialed. Minutes later, Lynn burst through the door, her face etched with concern. "Monica, we need to get you to the hospital. Now." The ride to the hospital was a blur of pain and fear. Monica clutched Lynn's hand tightly, her mind racing with questions. Was her baby okay? Had she done something wrong? The hospital loomed ahead like a monolith, its sterile halls promising answers but also dread. As Monica was wheeled into the emergency room, the stark whiteness of the ceiling lights felt blinding. A flurry of nurses surrounded her, their voices a cacophony of urgency. Her OB-GYN, Dr. Leonard Mills, arrived moments later, his face a mix of calm professionalism and quiet concern. "You're in preterm labor, Monica," he explained, his tone serious but measured. "We're going to do everything we can to stop it, but we need to act fast." Monica nodded, though her fear was mounting. Her hands instinctively cradled her belly, as if shielding her unborn child from the unknown. Hours passed in a haze of medical interventions, but the contractions wouldn't stop. Finally, the decision was made. An emergency delivery was the only option. Monica was rushed into the operating room, her heart pounding as she prayed silently for her baby's survival. The delivery was swift but harrowing. Monica barely registered the sound of her daughter's faint cry before it was drowned out by the urgent voices of the medical team. The baby, small enough to fit in the palm of a hand, was whisked away to the neonatal unit. Moments later, Dr. Mills returned with grim news. "Monica, I'm so sorry. Your baby didn't make it." The words hit her like a sledgehammer. Monica's world collapsed as she struggled to comprehend what she had just heard. Her sister Lynn held her tightly as sobs racked her body. Yet, amidst her grief, a gnawing feeling of doubt began to creep in. Something didn't feel right. Monica couldn't explain it, but the pit in her stomach told her there was more to the story. 12 hours later, Monica found herself unable to sleep, the weight of her loss pressing down on her like an anchor. Despite the pain, an unshakable urge compelled her to see her daughter one last time. She knew it would be unbearable, but the thought of not saying goodbye felt even worse. When she asked to see her baby, the hospital staff hesitated. "Are you sure, Ms. Hayes?" a nurse asked, her tone filled with awkward sympathy. "I'm sure," Monica replied firmly, her voice steadier than she expected. She was led to the hospital morgue, her legs trembling with every step. When the nurse opened the metal box, Monica braced herself for the worst. But what she saw defied all logic. Her baby, her Amara, was alive. The infant's chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven breaths. A weak but unmistakable cry escaped her tiny lips. Monica's heart stopped, then raced as adrenaline surged through her veins. "She's alive," Monica screamed, her voice a mix of disbelief and desperate urgency. "Get help now." The nurse froze, her face pale with shock, before springing into action. Within moments, Amara was rushed back to the NICU. A swarm of doctors and nurses descending upon her fragile form. Monica stood in the hallway, her body shaking as she processed the impossible. Against all odds, her daughter had survived, but this was just the beginning of a fight that would test every ounce of her strength. The NICU was a world of blinking monitors, sterile white walls, and the constant hum of machines working tirelessly to sustain fragile lives. Monica sat by Amara's incubator, her hands pressed against the glass as she watched her daughter fight for every breath. The sight of her baby, no larger than a loaf of bread and surrounded by wires and tubes, was both heartbreaking and awe-inspiring. Amara's skin was translucent, her tiny chest rising and falling with labored effort. Each breath seemed to defy nature itself. Monica felt a wave of anger and gratitude wash over her. Anger at the hospital's failure to protect her child and gratitude for the miracle that Amara was still alive. Dr. Leonard Mills approached cautiously, his face betraying a mix of relief and hesitation. "Ms. Hayes, I don't know how to explain this. What happened, it's unprecedented. But right now, Amara is alive, and we'll do everything in our power to keep her that way." Monica's eyes narrowed. Unprecedented? She was left in the morgue to die. That's not unprecedented, it's negligence. Dr. Mills stiffened. "I understand your frustration, but my focus now is on your daughter's care. She's in critical condition, and the next 72 hours are crucial." Monica nodded, her jaw tightening. She wasn't done asking questions. But for now, Amara needed her full attention. "What can I do to help her?" "Stay close. Talk to her. Babies can sense their mother's presence. It makes a difference," Dr. Mills said before walking away. The next few days were a blur of exhaustion and determination. Monica refused to leave the hospital, surviving on vending machine coffee and restless naps in a stiff chair by Amara's side. Every beep of the monitors sent her heart racing, each one a reminder of how fragile her daughter's life was. Her sister Lynn brought the other children to visit. Jasmine, the eldest, pressed her face against the glass of the incubator, her young eyes filled with questions she didn't know how to ask. Monica hugged her tightly, whispering reassurances she didn't entirely believe herself. As night fell, Monica leaned close to the incubator and began to sing softly. It was a lullaby her own mother used to sing, a melody of hope and strength. Amara's tiny fingers twitched as if reaching for her mother's voice. Tears streamed down Monica's face as she sang, her heart breaking and mending in equal measure. "Fight, baby girl," she whispered. "Mommy's here. I'll never leave you." While Monica focused on Amara's recovery, the doubts that had plagued her since the beginning grew louder. How had the hospital declared Amara dead so quickly? Why hadn't anyone double-checked? She decided to confront the administration. The hospital's administrator, Margaret Shaw, was a no-nonsense woman with sharp features and an air of practiced indifference. She listened to Monica's concerns with a professional smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ms. Hayes, I understand your frustration, but I assure you, the hospital staff followed protocol," Shaw said, her tone clipped. "Protocol? Leaving my daughter in the morgue wasn't protocol, it was a death sentence." Monica snapped, her voice rising. Shaw's expression hardened. "It was a tragic mistake, and we are conducting an internal review. But I must remind you that preterm infants born at 27 weeks face extremely low survival rates." Monica's hands clenched into fists. "Don't you dare use statistics to justify what happened. Amara is alive because I refused to accept your negligence. I want answers, and I want accountability." Shaw's professional mask slipped for a moment, revealing irritation. "We'll be in touch once the review is complete," she said, effectively dismissing Monica. As Monica stormed out of the office, her anger turned into resolve. If the hospital wouldn't take responsibility, she'd find someone who would. Back in the NICU, Monica was greeted by Nurse Maria Vega, a young Latina woman with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor. Maria had been one of the few staff members who treated Monica with genuine compassion from the start. "You're an incredible mother," Maria said, placing a comforting hand on Monica's shoulder. "Amara's a fighter, just like you." Monica felt a lump rise in her throat. "Thank you. I'm trying to stay strong. But it feels like I'm fighting the whole world." "You're not alone," Maria said firmly. "If you need help, I'm here. And if you think something isn't right, trust your instincts." Encouraged by Maria's support, Monica began documenting everything. The events leading up to Amara's birth, the hospital's actions, and her conversations with staff. She reached out to Evelyn Carter, a well-known civil rights attorney, who agreed to take on the case. "This isn't just about your daughter," Evelyn said during their first meeting. "What happened to Amara is part of a larger issue: racial disparities in healthcare. If we can prove negligence, we can set a precedent." Monica nodded, her resolve solidifying. "Whatever it takes, I'll fight for my daughter and for every other family who's been through this." Amara's condition remained precarious, but there were small victories that kept Monica going. Each day, Amara's breaths grew a little stronger, her tiny body fighting against the odds. Dr. Mills, who had been skeptical of her chances, began to show a grudging respect for Monica's determination. "She's surprising all of us," he admitted one evening, "but it's still a long road ahead." "I know," Monica said, her voice steady, "and I'll be here every step of the way." As the days turned into weeks, Monica's relationship with the hospital staff grew more complex. While some, like Maria, became allies, others remained distant or outright dismissive. The tension between Monica and the institution simmered, threatening to boil over at any moment. One afternoon, as Monica sat by Amara's incubator, she noticed something extraordinary. Her daughter's tiny hand reached out, her fingers curling slightly around the edge of the blanket. It was the smallest of movements, but to Monica, it was a miracle. "You're getting stronger, baby girl," Monica whispered, her heart swelling with hope. "You're proving them all wrong." That night, Monica fell asleep in the NICU for the first time in weeks, her head resting on the incubator. For the first time since Amara's birth, she allowed herself to dream of a future where her daughter would not only survive but thrive. The NICU became Monica's second home. Days bled into nights as she sat by Amara's incubator, monitoring every beep and flicker of the machines that kept her daughter alive. The room was a mosaic of tiny miracles and tragedies, each incubator holding a fragile life tethered to hope by wires and machines. Despite her optimism, the reality of Amara's condition was grim. She suffered multiple apnea episodes, moments when her tiny lungs would simply stop working. The first time it happened, Monica froze in terror as the monitor blared its warning. A nurse rushed in, administering gentle stimulation to restart Amara's breathing. "It's common for preemies this small," Nurse Maria explained, her tone calm but serious. "Her brain isn't fully developed yet, but we're watching her closely." Watching her daughter fight for every breath tore at Monica's heart. Yet, she couldn't help but notice that not every family in the NICU received the same level of attention. A white couple whose baby was also born prematurely seemed to have a parade of doctors and specialists attending to them. Monica couldn't ignore the disparity, and it deepened her resolve to hold the hospital accountable. Monica's suspicions about the hospital's negligence grew stronger. She spent hours in the waiting room, talking to other families who shared their own stories of inadequate care and racial bias. One mother tearfully recounted how her concerns had been dismissed until it was too late to save her child. Fueled by these stories, Monica reached out to Evelyn Carter, the civil rights attorney. Evelyn had already begun collecting evidence, including hospital records, medical protocols, and testimonies from former staff members. One name kept coming up: Dr. Gerald Thornton, the hospital's head of neonatology, whose decisions often prioritized cutting costs over patient care. "This isn't just negligence," Evelyn told Monica during one of their late-night phone calls. "This is a pattern, and it disproportionately affects families like yours." Monica clenched her fists. "I'm not letting them get away with this. Not for Amara. Not for anyone else." One evening, as Monica sat by Amara's side, an alarm sounded. Her heart leapt into her throat as a team of nurses and doctors swarmed the incubator. Amara's heart had stopped. "Clear," a nurse shouted, and the team administered a tiny shock to restart her heart. Monica stood frozen, tears streaming down her face as she watched her baby fight for her life. After what felt like an eternity, the monitor's rhythmic beeping resumed. Dr. Mills turned to Monica, his face pale but composed. "She's stable, but this will likely happen again. You need to prepare yourself." Monica shook her head. "I'm not giving up on her. And neither should you." Dr. Mills hesitated, then nodded. "We'll keep fighting." The incident solidified Monica's determination. She knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. But she refused to lose hope. Her daughter had already defied death once, she could do it again. Monica wasn't alone in her battle. Nurse Maria became her confidant, often sneaking into the waiting room to offer updates and words of encouragement. Even Dr. Mills, initially cold and clinical, began showing signs of empathy. He started visiting Amara's incubator more frequently, adjusting her care plan to give her the best chance at survival. One day, Maria pulled Monica aside. "There's something you should know," she said, glancing over her shoulder to ensure they weren't overheard. "Some of the staff are afraid to speak up. But there's a history of mishandling cases like yours. Dr. Thornton has covered up mistakes before." Monica's stomach turned. Why hasn't anyone done anything? Maria sighed. Fear. Retaliation. But if this goes to court, I'll testify. Someone has to. Maria's words strengthened Monica's resolve. She realized her fight wasn't just for Amara. It was for every family who had been silenced by fear. Amara's condition began to show signs of improvement. Her breathing became more regular, and she gained a few precious ounces. The first time Monica saw her daughter open her eyes, she felt a surge of hope that carried her through the darkest moments. But the victories were bittersweet. Each step forward was accompanied by setbacks, a sudden fever, another apnea episode, the ever-present threat of infection. Monica learned to celebrate the small wins while bracing herself for the battles ahead. As Monica juggled her time between the NICU and her other children, the weight of her responsibilities began to take its toll. Jasmine, her eldest, had taken on more than a child her age should, helping to care for her younger siblings while Monica was at the hospital. "I'm sorry, baby," Monica whispered one night as she tucked Jasmine into bed. "I know this is hard on you." Jasmine looked up at her with wide, solemn eyes. "It's okay, Mommy. Amara needs you." Monica's heart broke at her daughter's selflessness. She vowed to fight even harder. Not just for Amara but for all her children, who deserved a better world. Evelyn Carter's investigation began to yield results. Former hospital employees came forward with stories of cover-ups, falsified records, and pressure to prioritize cost-cutting over patient care. One former nurse provided damning evidence. A memo from Dr. Thornton instructing staff to minimize efforts on cases deemed unlikely to succeed. "This could be the smoking gun," Evelyn told Monica during a meeting. "It proves a pattern of neglect. And it's time to bring this to light." Monica nodded, her eyes blazing with determination. "Let's do it." One night, as Monica sat by Amara's incubator, Maria brought her a cup of tea and sat down beside her. "She's a fighter, just like you," Maria said, nodding toward Amara. "You've already done so much for her." Monica smiled through her exhaustion. "I'll never stop fighting." As Maria left, Monica leaned closer to the incubator, her fingers brushing the glass. "You're going to make it, baby girl. I believe in you." Amara stirred, her tiny fingers curling into a fist. It was a small gesture, but to Monica, it was a promise, a sign that they would get through this together. Monica sat across from Evelyn Carter in the lawyer's sleek downtown office, her hands gripping a cup of lukewarm coffee. The walls were lined with plaques and certificates, a testament to Evelyn's long history of fighting for civil rights. Despite her confidence in Evelyn, Monica couldn't shake the knot of anxiety in her stomach. "I filed a preliminary claim against the hospital," Evelyn began, her tone calm but firm. "We're alleging negligence, racial discrimination, and improper medical protocols. They'll fight back hard, but I believe we have a solid case." Monica nodded, her resolve firm. They need to answer for what they did to Amara and to all the families they've ignored. Evelyn leaned forward, her piercing gaze locking with Monica's. "This won't be easy. They'll dig into your past, try to discredit you as a mother, as a person. Are you ready for that?" "I don't care what they throw at me," Monica said, her voice steady. "This is about Amara." As the lawsuit became public, Monica faced an onslaught of criticism. The hospital issued a carefully worded statement, denying all allegations and expressing sympathy for Monica's situation. News outlets picked up the story, and while some reporters framed Monica as a courageous mother seeking justice, others painted her as a troublemaker looking for a payout. The online backlash was vicious. Comments flooded social media, accusing Monica of being irresponsible and playing the race card. Lynn tried to shield her from the worst of it, but Monica couldn't help but see the hateful messages. "Don't let them get to you," Lynn urged. "You're doing the right thing." But the attacks only strengthened Monica's resolve. She wasn't fighting for public approval, she was fighting for Amara. Amid the chaos, Monica found unexpected allies. Several families reached out, sharing similar stories of negligence and discrimination at the same hospital. One mother, Clara Reynolds, recounted how her premature son had been denied critical care because staff deemed his case hopeless. "They told me there was nothing they could do," Clara said, tears streaming down her face. "But I know they didn't try hard enough." Evelyn decided to consolidate these accounts into the case, arguing that the hospital's practices reflected a systemic pattern of neglect. The inclusion of these stories bolstered Monica's case and added weight to the fight for justice. Evelyn's team worked tirelessly, poring over hospital records and interviewing former employees. One whistleblower, a young intern named Daniel, revealed damning details about the hospital's internal policies. He described how Dr. Gerald Thornton, the head of neonatology, pressured staff to prioritize cost-saving measures over patient care. "I was told not to spend too much time on cases like Amara's," Daniel confessed during a private meeting. "They said resources were better spent on viable patients." Monica's stomach churned with anger. "They were willing to let my baby die to save money." Evelyn placed a reassuring hand on Monica's shoulder. "We're building a strong case. Thornton's decisions will come under intense scrutiny." The weeks leading up to the trial were grueling. Monica spent long hours recounting every detail of Amara's birth and the hospital's actions. Evelyn coached her on how to handle cross-examinations, preparing her for the inevitable attempts to discredit her. "They'll ask about your finances, your family, anything they can twist to make you look bad," Evelyn warned. "Stay calm, stick to the facts." Monica practiced tirelessly, her determination growing with each session. She knew the stakes were high, not just for her, but for every parent who had been failed by the system. As the trial date approached, the story gained national attention. Reporters camped outside Monica's home, and her face appeared on television screens across the country. Interviews with supporters like nurse Maria Vega painted a picture of a mother fighting against all odds. While detractors accused Monica of exploiting her tragedy, Monica agreed to a single televised interview, hoping to sway public opinion. Sitting across from a sympathetic journalist, she spoke from the heart. "This isn't just about my daughter," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "It's about every family who's been dismissed, every life that's been deemed unworthy. Amara deserves better. We all do." The interview struck a chord, and support began to pour in. Donations for legal fees flooded a crowdfunding campaign, and community leaders rallied behind Monica's cause. The courtroom was packed on the first day of the trial. Monica sat at the plaintiff's table with Evelyn by her side, her heart pounding as the proceedings began. Across the room, the hospital's legal team exuded confidence, led by a slick attorney named Richard Hayes. He wasted no time attacking Monica's credibility, painting her as an unfit mother who was seeking financial gain. Evelyn countered with powerful opening arguments, highlighting the hospital's negligence and systemic failures. "This isn't about money," Evelyn declared. "It's about accountability and justice." The trial's first few days were tense as witnesses took the stand. Maria Vega testified with unwavering conviction, describing the hospital's disregard for patients like Amara. Daniel, the intern, provided a detailed account of Thornton's cost-cutting policies. The most dramatic moment came when Evelyn introduced the internal memo from Dr. Thornton, instructing staff to minimize efforts on low survival cases. The courtroom fell silent as the memo was displayed on a large screen. "This," Evelyn said, her voice cutting through the silence, "is the hospital's policy in action. This is what almost cost Amara her life." When Monica took the stand, she spoke with raw emotion. She recounted the moment she found Amara alive in the morgue, her voice breaking as she described her daughter's fight for survival. "Amara wasn't just a statistic," Monica said, her eyes locking with the jury. "She's a life worth fighting for. And I'll keep fighting until justice is served." As the trial progressed, cracks began to appear in the hospital's defense. Thornton's evasive testimony and the mounting evidence of systemic neglect painted a damning picture. Evelyn seized the momentum, delivering a scathing closing argument that left the courtroom in stunned silence. Richard Hayes, the hospital's lead attorney, was relentless. As the trial moved into its final stages, his cross-examinations became increasingly aggressive. When Monica took the stand for the second time, He pounced on her financial struggles and single motherhood. "Ms. Hayes," Hayes began, his tone dripping with faux sympathy. "You've admitted to working 2 jobs and leaving your older children to care for one another. Isn't it possible that your exhaustion contributed to your perception of the events surrounding Amara's birth?" Monica's jaw tightened, but she remained composed. "I may have been exhausted, but I know what I saw. I know my daughter was alive. And I know your hospital failed her." Hayes pressed further. "You're aware that premature infants born at 27 weeks often don't survive. Correct? Perhaps you're looking for someone to blame for a situation that was beyond anyone's control." Evelyn stood abruptly. "Objection. Counsel is leading the witness." "Sustained," the judge said, shooting Hayes a warning glance. Monica felt a surge of gratitude for Evelyn's presence. She steadied herself and continued, her voice unwavering. "I'm not looking for someone to blame. I'm looking for the truth." As the defense faltered, Evelyn introduced a final piece of evidence, an anonymous letter from a whistleblower within the hospital. The letter detailed how certain patient records had been altered to cover up mistakes and shield the hospital from lawsuits. "This letter," Evelyn said, holding it up for the jury to see, "provides direct evidence of a pattern of dishonesty and negligence. We've subpoenaed additional documents to corroborate its claims." The courtroom erupted into murmurs. Hayes objected furiously, claiming the letter was inadmissible. But the judge allowed it into evidence pending verification. It was a critical blow to the hospital's defense. The trial's emotional climax came when Evelyn called Monica back to the stand for a final testimony. This time, she wasn't there to defend herself but to speak for Amara. "Every moment I spend with my daughter is a miracle," Monica began, her voice thick with emotion. "She's proven that she's stronger than anyone gave her credit for. But this trial isn't just about Amara. It's about making sure no other mother has to go through what I did. Being told their child isn't worth the effort to save." Her words hung in the air, charged with raw emotion. Several jurors wiped their eyes. Even Hayes seemed momentarily taken aback by the sheer force of Monica's conviction. After weeks of tense arguments and emotional testimonies, the jury retreated to deliberate. Monica sat in the courtroom, her hands trembling as she clutched a small photo of Amara. The hours dragged on, each one heavier than the last. Finally, the jury returned. The foreperson stood, clearing her throat. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Memorial General Hospital, guilty of negligence and racial discrimination." The words hit Monica like a wave, a mixture of relief and vindication flooding her chest. She let out a shaky breath as tears streamed down her face. Around her, supporters erupted into applause, though the judge quickly called for order. The hospital was ordered to pay significant damages. But more importantly, they were mandated to implement sweeping reforms to address racial disparities and improve patient care. The verdict was a victory not just for Monica but for every family who had suffered under the hospital's negligence. The fallout from the trial was swift. Dr. Gerald Thornton resigned amid mounting public pressure, and an internal investigation uncovered more instances of misconduct. Several families who had previously been too afraid to speak out came forward. Inspired by Monica's courage, the hospital, under new leadership, began working with advocacy groups to rebuild trust within the community. While the process was slow, it marked the beginning of a long overdue reckoning. As the media frenzy died down, Monica returned to what mattered most, Amara. Her daughter was still in the NICU, but her condition had improved significantly. She had gained weight and no longer needed a ventilator. A milestone that filled Monica's heart with hope. One sunny afternoon, Monica held Amara in her arms for the first time. The feel of her daughter's warm, tiny body against her chest was indescribable. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "You're my miracle, baby girl." Jasmine and her siblings crowded around, their faces alight with joy. For the first time in months, their family felt whole. Monica's fight didn't end with the trial. She became an outspoken advocate for healthcare reform, sharing her story at conferences and rallies. Her courage inspired others to speak out, creating a ripple effect that extended far beyond her own community. Amara's journey was far from over, but each step forward felt like a victory. Monica knew there would be challenges ahead, but she also knew she had the strength to face them. She had fought for her daughter's life and for justice, and she had won. Years later, Monica stood on a stage at a healthcare reform event, holding Amara's hand. Her daughter, now a vibrant young girl with bright eyes and a dazzling smile, waved to the crowd. Amara is living proof of what love, determination, and justice can achieve, Monica said, her voice filled with pride. This fight wasn't just for her, it was for every child who deserves a chance at life. And every parent who deserves to be heard. The audience rose to their feet in applause, their cheers echoing through the auditorium. Monica looked down at Amara, who squeezed her hand tightly. In that moment, Monica knew they had not only survived but thrived. Together, they had turned pain into purpose, proving that even in the face of overwhelming odds, love and justice could prevail. 10 years after the trial, Monica sat at the kitchen table in her modest but welcoming home. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the framed photographs that adorned the walls, pictures of her children at various stages of their lives, with Amara's radiant smile shining brightest among them. Amara, now 10 years old, was thriving, despite early fears of developmental delays. She had surpassed every expectation. She was bright, inquisitive, and fiercely independent, a living testament to her mother's unwavering love and determination. "Mom, where's my science project?" Amara called from the living room, her voice tinged with the urgency of a child on a mission. Monica chuckled, rising to help her daughter. "It's on the dining table, right where you left it." Amara bounded over, her curly hair bouncing with each step. She picked up the project, a meticulously crafted solar system model, and beamed up at her mother. "Thanks, Mom, you're the best." Monica watched her daughter with pride and gratitude. Amara's life was a miracle, but it was also a reminder of the countless families who still faced systemic barriers. Monica's fight had changed her own world, but her work wasn't done. Monica's advocacy had grown into a nationwide movement. She had founded the Amara Foundation, an organization dedicated to fighting racial disparities in healthcare and supporting families navigating the NICU experience. The foundation provided resources, legal assistance, and emotional support to parents who felt voiceless in the face of medical bureaucracy. Through the foundation, Monica met parents who shared their own harrowing stories. Some were eerily similar to her own, while others highlighted new challenges. Each story reinforced her belief that systemic change was possible, though it required persistence and courage. Monica frequently traveled to speak at conferences, hospitals, and universities. Her message was simple but powerful: every life matters. Every parent deserves to be heard. And every child deserves a chance. One afternoon, Monica returned to Memorial General Hospital for the first time since the trial. The institution had undergone significant reforms, and a plaque in the lobby now honored the families whose bravery had spurred those changes. Monica's name was among them. Alongside Amara's, Dr. Leonard Mills, now retired, greeted her warmly. His once stern demeanor had softened over the years, and his respect for Monica was evident. "Monica," he said, shaking her hand, "it's good to see you again. You've done incredible things." "So have you," Monica replied, glancing around at the updated facilities and the diverse staff moving purposefully through the halls. "This place feels different." "It is," Dr. Mills said. "Your fight forced us to confront hard truths. We're better because of it." Monica nodded, a sense of closure settling over her. The hospital was no longer a place of pain, it was a symbol of progress. At one of the Amara Foundation's annual events, Monica invited Clara Reynolds, one of the parents she had met during her fight, to share her story. Clara, whose child had also survived against the odds, spoke with raw honesty about the challenges and triumphs of her journey. Monica watched from the sidelines, her heart swelling with pride. The foundation had grown beyond her initial vision, becoming a platform for countless voices. She knew that change wasn't just about her, it was about empowering others to continue the fight. Amara joined her on stage at the end of the event, holding a microphone with confidence that belied her age. "Thank you for believing in us," Amara said, her voice clear and strong. "My mom always says that love and justice can change the world. I think she's right." The audience erupted in applause, their cheers a resounding affirmation of the movement Monica had built. As the sun set over their quiet neighborhood, Monica and Amara sat on the porch swing, watching the sky shift into hues of orange and pink. The years had been hard, but they had also been beautiful, a journey of healing, growth, and transformation. "Do you ever think about what might have happened?" Amara asked softly, her gaze fixed on the horizon. All the time, Monica admitted, but then I look at you. And I know we were meant to fight. You've taught me more about strength and love than I ever thought possible. Amara leaned against her mother, her small hand slipping into Monica's. I think you're the strongest person in the world. Mom. Monica smiled, her heart full. No, baby girl, that's you. As the stars began to appear, Monica felt a profound sense of peace. The fight had been long, but it had been worth it. Amara's life was a testament to resilience, justice, and the boundless power of a mother's love. Monica's story inspired a generation to demand better from their healthcare systems, to challenge injustices, and to believe in the transformative power of love and hope. The Amara Foundation continued to grow, changing lives and reshaping policies. For Monica, the journey was far from over. But as she held her daughter close and looked toward the future, she knew one thing for certain: together, they had already changed the world. The community of Atlanta had undergone a noticeable shift in the years following Monica and Amara's case. What had once been an unspoken acceptance of inequity in healthcare now became a rallying cry for change. Grassroots organizations began forming alliances with larger nonprofits, many inspired by Monica's story and the work of the Amara Foundation. Hospitals across the region implemented mandatory training programs on racial bias and patient advocacy. Memorial General Hospital, once the epicenter of neglect and systemic failures, now served as a national model for equitable healthcare reform. Monica often visited these hospitals, meeting with staff and sharing her journey. She emphasized the importance of listening to patients, particularly those from marginalized communities. Every time you choose to listen, Monica told a group of medical students during a lecture, you have the power to save a life. At 13 years old, Amara stood in front of a packed auditorium for the first time. The audience was a mix of healthcare professionals, activists, and parents, all eager to hear the perspective of the girl who had once been declared dead. My mom fought for me before I could fight for myself. Amara began, her voice steady and confident. And now, I want to fight for others. She recounted her early memories of the NICU, pieced together from her mother's stories and her own faint recollections. She spoke about the Amara Foundation's work and its impact on families across the country. I'm not just a survivor, Amara said, her voice rising with passion. I'm proof that every life matters. And I'm here to make sure no one is forgotten. Monica watched from the front row, her heart swelling with pride. Amara had become more than the child she had fought to save. She had become a beacon of hope and strength. Jasmine, now a college student studying public health, had joined the Amara Foundation's leadership team. Her experiences growing up in the shadow of her sister's miraculous survival had shaped her aspirations. I want to create a world where kids like Amara never have to fight this hard to live, Jasmine told Monica during one of their late-night conversations. Where moms like you don't have to go to war just to be heard. Monica smiled, recognizing the fire in Jasmine's eyes. You're already changing the world, baby, one step at a time. Their bond, forged in the crucible of hardship, had only grown stronger over the years. Together, they envisioned a future where equity wasn't just an ideal but a reality. One day, while attending a healthcare conference in New York, Monica found herself face to face with Richard Hayes, the attorney who had once led the hospital's defense. His sharp demeanor had softened with age, and there was a hint of remorse in his expression as he approached her. Ms. Hayes, he began, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. I've wanted to apologize for how I treated you during the trial. I didn't see it then. But you were right. The system was broken. Monica regarded him for a long moment before nodding. Thank you for saying that. But this was never just about me, it was about fixing something bigger. Richard extended a hand, which Monica accepted. Their exchange, while brief, symbolized the far-reaching impact of her fight, a shift in perspective even from those once entrenched in the opposition. Years later, Monica released a memoir titled Against All Odds, A Mother's Fight for Justice. The book chronicled her journey in vivid detail, from Amara's birth to the trial, and the systemic reforms that followed. It quickly became a bestseller, resonating with readers from all walks of life. In one particularly poignant chapter, Monica wrote, I was just a mother, not a lawyer, not a doctor, not a politician. But love and determination gave me the strength to stand against a system that had failed me. And if I could do it, so can anyone. The memoir not only cemented Monica's legacy but also became a tool for education and advocacy. Used in medical schools and legal workshops across the country, Monica sat on the porch of her home, now surrounded by lush gardens and the laughter of grandchildren playing in the yard. Amara, now an accomplished advocate and medical researcher, was visiting with her own family. Jasmine had returned from a health summit overseas, eager to share her latest initiatives. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Monica felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her fight had not only saved Amara's life but had also sparked a movement that transcended their family. "You've done so much, Mom," Amara said, sitting beside her. "None of this would exist without you." Monica smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "It wasn't just me, it was all of us, together." The story of Monica and Amara Hayes became a symbol of hope, resilience, and the power of love. Through their struggles and triumphs, they reminded the world that even the smallest lives hold infinite value. And that one voice, no matter how quiet, can ignite a revolution. Their legacy lived on in every family the Amara Foundation supported, in every hospital that embraced equity, and in every parent who dared to believe in miracles. And in the heart of it all was Monica, a mother whose unyielding love changed the world.